Hey, what's up? What's up? One time for the one time. So I'm just coming to you because those of you who don't know, I have to reiterate this because I do believe this man deserves the most, I guess, recognition when it comes to dropping knowledge and jewels, when it comes to dealing with your children and psychology, and how he knows that systematically our kids are being attacked. They are. Through our school systems and through the pharmacy and drug industry when they're prescribing all of these drugs. So I want you guys to go out and support. He gave you the tickets at the lowest price ever, you guys. Because, African Americans, black people tend to have an excuse for everything under the sun when it comes to going to something that may change their life in their future. So there's no excuse because he dropped them prices down drastically. I was even surprised, shoot. I'll even offer to pay for someone's ticket if you need to go so badly because I feel like a lot of Ebony people definitely need to be there. So with that being said, I'm also coming because, I tend to have things that pop up in my head and I like to talk. And so I end up here. Those of you who have never questioned or even asked the question, but I want you to think about, what does martial law mean to you? How would it affect you and how would it devastate you? And I'm also speaking to other individuals who classify themselves outside of being melanated, ebony people. Yeah. So I want you guys to think of that. And I'm going to drop this here. I'm going to leave this here, this scenario. And I want you to see if you can correlate the two and maybe some type of understanding can be had, or sympathy can be had, or even empathy for that matter can be had for African Americans when you make some of your comments, individuals of other races who tend not to care so much about our well-being or welfare until it affects you personally. Alright, so for instance, those of you who are familiar, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Hitler and the Jewish Holocaust, because there is such thing as the Black Holocaust, and I'm talking about Black Wall Street, or even where it occurs now in 2015. We're living that day in and day out. But I'm just going to stick with the Jewish Holocaust. With that being said, those of you who do know that Hitler targeted a group, a race, right? The Jewish individuals. It was also left out, or wasn't mentioned as much, that if you were not the blonde hair, blue-eyed individual, then you were as well thrown into that camp or gassed. You weren't fed, you were brutally beaten. You just went through a lot of horrible things if you were in that camp, if you were not blonde, blue hair, and blue-eyed, right? So that means African Americans were involved in the Holocaust, homosexuals were in the Holocaust. So when I'm referencing that, I'm referring to other racial groups that believe that it does not concern them, they have no concern when it comes to the African American situations and troubles. Hello, this is your fight. Because after they're done with us, but we're not going to take this sitting down. I'm just using that as an example. Done with us? I doubt that. We're not going down without a fight. Understand that. Best believe that. But after they're done, who do you think is next on the totem pole? You just move on to the next. The ones who are in power, the hierarchy. You got to think. So martial law is more so for you too than anybody else too. We live in a society where we're taught to think for self, to step on the other man to get to where you need to go. Where do they do that in? And what type of government? And I want you to think. That don't sound like a democratic government. That don't sound like a democratic party. I mean, we are taught this from the time that we're young till we get older. Oh, you can never be number two. Nobody remembers number two. You gotta be number one. You gotta be the boss. You gotta be the leader. And we all know that everybody can't be the leader. We could pass the torch. Everyone can have their turn to serve. But we can't all be the leader at one time. I promise you, and I'm convinced that we have a lot of freaking sociopaths that lead our country, especially when it comes to the justice system. When you're filling out applications, and depending on what workload you're going into and who's in power and who's hiring you, if you say that you're all for oneself, number one, I work alone, I like solitude, I would, if I had to go and tell on what's her name, I'd tell in a heartbeat instead of handle with the situation. Trust and believe, you're probably more than likely to get hired. No doubt about it. We deal with a lot of people who have freaking outlandish tendencies and use the law to live out their fantasies of torturing a lot of people. We do. I don't see why we gave human beings who were once average Joes, such as we are, in the position as we are, this much power. That's fucking too, excuse my language, that's too much power for anybody. For one man, let alone a small elect few. Nah, people need to start taking back their power. And however you do it, by any means, then utilize it. Yeah. Thank you guys for listening. And I'm gone.